Chapter 1. A Job for Monroe. "Read these," said Naylor, passing 3 small pieces of newspaper across the table. "On their own, they're not much, but together—" He stopped talking and looked out of his office window. For a moment, half closing his eyes in thought. "Together," he continued, "they could mean something strange is happening." Ian Monroe picked up the 3 short newspaper stories and read them carefully. Some fish were dead, and nobody knew why. 2 people were dead, probably because some poison gas had escaped, and there weren't as many birds as usual in a town. If they were 3 stories from 3 different places, probably no one would think twice. But they were 3 stories about the same place, Lahti, in Finland. And they were all stories from within the last 8 months. In fact, the last one was dated April 14th, only a few days ago. Monroe looked across at Naylor. Naylor was a tall man with grey hair and hard, bright blue eyes. He was dressed in a dark grey suit, with a white shirt and a dark blue tie. Monroe thought, not for the first time, how little he knew about Naylor. But then Naylor spent his working life sending people on jobs from which they might never return. Perhaps it wasn't surprising that he didn't seem to have a lot of friends. "I see what you mean," said Monroe, sitting back in his chair. "What do you think is happening?" "I'm not sure," replied Naylor, looking at Monroe. "Poison of some sort? Poison gas, maybe. Possibly someone is making it. But we don't know who or why. Not yet, anyway." Naylor put the 3 stories back into the file on his desk. As he closed it, Monroe saw the name Lahti written on the front. "You lived in Finland for some years, didn't you?" said Naylor. "How's your Finnish?" "It's fine," replied Monroe. "People usually think I come from Lapland, north of the Arctic Circle." "Good. I want you to go over there, to Lahti." 20 years ago, people would have called Ian Monroe a spy. Today, he was called a foreign executive. It was the same business, really, just a different name. Naylor continued, "You're on the 12:35 plane to Helsinki, Finland. Your tickets are ready downstairs in the travel office. You've got a meeting in Lahti at 6 o'clock this evening on the steps of the church in Kikakatu." "Who am I meeting?" asked Monroe. "A man called Pentti Virolainen. He has some information for us about these stories. Find out what he knows, and then wait for my orders. Any questions?" Monroe had lots of questions, but he knew that Naylor would only tell him what he needed to know. "Just one," said Monroe. "Why us? I mean, it's a Finnish problem. Why don't we let the Finns do something about it?" Naylor moved forward in his chair and put his hands on the table. "The information I have at the moment leads me to believe that it would not be a good idea to tell the Finns what we know. I can't tell you more than that for now. It may become clear later." Monroe said nothing. Sometimes it made the job easier if you didn't have the complete picture. Chapter 2. Meeting at the Church. 7 hours later, Monroe checked into the hotel
Lahti
on
Alexandrinkatu.
one of Lahti's main streets. He spoke English to the receptionist behind the desk. He enjoyed speaking Finnish, but it might be an advantage if people didn't know he could. They might give away information, thinking that he did not understand. In his room, he took his clothes out of his suitcase and put them away carefully. He always did this in the same way so that he would know if someone had searched his room. Monroe knew they would find nothing. He never carried important newspapers. He never carried a gun. If someone found a gun, there were always a lot of questions to answer. Monroe checked his watch. It was already 17:45. Time to go. He looked in the mirror. Light grey eyes looked back at him. His hair, dark brown, almost black, was a bit long, but tidy. He was wearing jeans and a grey top. He picked up his map of Lahti. Just another tourist out sightseeing. Out on the street, Monroe checked that no one was waiting for him. He had already checked at the airport, and when he got off the coach in Lahti. However, it was impossible to be too careful. Last year, an executive was killed at Bangkok airport before he had even started the job. There were some very red faces in London that day. The street was busy, so Monroe took his time checking. No one was following. Good. The days were already getting longer. It was still very light, and it was warm for April. As he walked across Kauppatori, the market square, he could see the church rising up over on his right. He knew from some tourist information in the hotel that the church, completed in 1978, was the work of the Finnish architect Alvar Aalto. Monroe usually liked the clean lines that Finnish architects brought to their buildings. He was surprised to discover the church was rather an ugly building. Monroe turned into the bottom of Mariankatu and started walking up the short hill towards the church. The street was empty. He looked at his watch again. 17:55. There was no one on the church steps. At the top of the street, he looked left and right along Kirkkokatu. A woman was walking her dog, about 100 meters away to the right. There was an art gallery on the left-hand side of the street. It was closed. Monroe crossed the road and stood in the doorway of the art gallery. He could see the church steps, but it would be difficult to see him. The basic condition for a safe meeting with someone you don't know. Make sure you can see them before they can see you. The woman and her dog disappeared around a corner. A boy on a bicycle came along from the left and turned down towards the market square. An old lady in a black dress and black shoes came out of the church, carrying a heavy shopping bag. 1800. Monroe seemed to be looking at the paintings in the window of the art gallery. Something to take back home, perhaps? A present from Lahti. Actually, he was checking the streets in all directions and looking up at the church steps again. Where was Virolainen? Minutes passed. The old lady turned left along Kirkkokatu, crossed the road, and went into an apartment building. A cat crossed the road quickly in the other direction and jumped over the low wall round the church grounds. It stopped, sat on the grass, and started cleaning itself carefully. Monroe looked at his watch, although he knew what the time was, 18:10. Still no Virolainen. 5 more minutes, then he would go back to the hotel. It would be dangerous to wait any longer. He would call London for new orders. Just then, he heard a noise. The sound of running feet. Monroe stepped further back into the doorway. People ran when they were late, but they also ran to get away from danger. A man appeared suddenly from the right-hand side of the church. He stopped at the top of the steps and looked all around him. He looked worried, as if someone was chasing him, but he did not know where they were going to come from next. Monroe stayed where he was. If this was Pentti Virolainen, there was a problem. Something was wrong. If someone was chasing Virolainen, Monroe shouldn't be here. Above all, this should be a safe meeting. The executive from London should not be put in danger. Monroe heard a noise at the bottom of Marienkatu. A car was coming up the hill. The noise seemed loud. Too loud, in fact. Monroe looked quickly to his right. Too late, he realized what was happening. That is the end of chapter 2. Was that Virolainen at the church? Who was in the car? Did the cat see everything? Is the boy on the bike important? I look forward to talking to you about this in class. I'm excited to find out what happens next. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.